Van Allen Senior Apartment Complex. We're doing a home interview. My name is Wayne Clark. I'm with the New York State Military Museum in Saratoga Springs, New York. Sir, for the record, would you please state your full name and date and place of birth, please?
You want my middle name too?
Sure.
Justus Rathbone Belfield. My date of birth is June 27th, 1916. I was born in Utica, New York.
And did you attend school in Utica?
Yes, I did.
Did you graduate from high school?
No, I have a GED, which I got in the military.
All right. Now, I'm just looking at your paperwork here, and you went into the military March 15th, 1943.
Correct. That's when I was called up.
Oh, all right.
I didn't enlist then. I enlisted in 1942, but I was held in abeyance until 43, until they formed the
unit?
Well, the division that I was going to go in.
Okay.
And in the meantime, they changed it from the 17th Armored Division to the 22nd Armored Division. So when I was called up in March 15th,
1943.
43, I was in the 22nd Armored Division.
Now, did you attend basic training with them?
At first, I was doing basic training with them. I ended up being a teacher.
Oh. Well, what did you teach?
Small arms.
All right. Now, you were in the National Guard also, correct?
Well, the National Guard was the cavalry.
All right. Was that before being called up in 43?
Oh yes, that was back in 1936. I enlisted in that.
All right. Well, tell me about that. What unit were you with?
I was with Troop A in Utica, New York.
Mm-hmm.
They built us a beautiful, big, brand new armory up there.
Mm-hmm.
And we had 78 horses. And we had horses in that troop that were from the border chasing Pancho Villa across back into Mexico. They were that old.
Oh my goodness.
I rode one when I first got there. Well, the reason why they kept them was that they knew every signal. In the cavalry, there's no voice signals.
Mm-hmm.
It's all done with your arm, like that, and it will whistle.
Uh-huh.
And I got a horse. My first horse I rode was called Gringo, G. Back in the old days when A troop was G troop.
Oh.
On the
okay.
border.
Yeah.
And Gringo knew every single signal. All I had to do is sit in the saddle and hold the reins, that's all.
Uh-huh.
He did everything.
Now, were you the only soldier that rode him?
Oh, goodness, no. Every recruit rode one of the G. We had several G horses left.
Mm-hmm.
I think 5 of them. And I rode 3 of them. Gringo, Garwood, Grover.
Mm-hmm.
Grover was a good horse too.
Mm-hmm.
Gringo and Grover were good horses. I don't know too much about Garwood.
So these horses were over 20 years old.
Over 20? They were 30.
30 years old. Oh my goodness.
Gringo, when we turned him out to pasture, he had a big write-up in the newspaper about him. 33 years old.
Wow.
And still going.
Uh-huh. Now, was that the first time you had ridden a horse?
Well, to that extent, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a horse's back before,
Mm-hmm.
but to manure and do all that kind of thing, being in the cavalry was my object.
Mm-hmm. What did you think of the cavalry? Did you enjoy it?
I loved it. I'd be in it tomorrow if they had it.
Now, how long were you with them?
5 years,
All right,
from
from
1936 to 1941.
41?
Late 40.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, why did you leave the cavalry? Did they disband the unit?
They took the horses away
Oh, okay.
and made us into a mechanized unit. I didn't want nothing to do with it. They gave us 37 millimeter guns. It was supposed to be an anti-tank unit.
Mm-hmm.
They gave us 37 millimeter guns. They might as well have given us a pea shooter and some spitballs.
Uh-huh.
Shoot it. They wouldn't have done a thing.
Huh.
Big old German Tiger tank come along and you shoot a 37 at it, they think a fly hit it.
Uh-huh. Now, what rank were you when you left the unit?
When I left,
The guard unit, the cavalry.
well, to be anything other than a private in the cavalry, you had to be there about 7 years.
I see.
Then if you were lucky, you got to be a PFC. And you had to do another 5 years, and you were in line for a corporal, but you had to wait for a corporal to retire or
Oh.
whatever. But you'd be in line for it. That's how it was back in those days.
Now, did you attend any sort of basic training during that period?
Sure. Oh, sure. Sure, you had to learn all the basic rudiments and what they call the IDR, Infantry Drill Regulation. I got the book in my library in here.
Now, did you go away someplace for that training?
No.
You were taught there at the armory?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then, when you eventually joined the regular army, did that training you have with the Guard, did that help you at all?
That made me what I was, man. I enlisted in World War II, and I was appointed a corporal right off.
Oh, because of your experience.
That's right. I didn't get the job of being a teacher right off, but I was showing the men undercover, you know, that they didn't know anything. These poor guys, they came in cold, and well, I know most of the stuff. Yes, I didn't have to go through a regular basic training.
Now, where were you stationed in the States?
So many places. Do you want me to
Sure.
explain? Okay, I entered at Fort Niagara. You know where that is?
Yep.
Out on the point. I went there. I was there for 2 weeks, and then I went to Camp Perry, Ohio. You know where that is?
Well, I know where Ohio is.
Camp Perry is near Sandusky.
Okay.
Does that give you a
Well,
point?
no, that still doesn't help me, but that's all right.
It's on the lake. It's on the lake.
Okay.
Lake Erie.
All right.
Okay. I was there for probably 3 months.
Hey?
Yeah.
I'm gonna need you for a minute.
Okay, I'll stop the interview. Okay. Now, you were in, I think we left off, you were at Camp Perry,
Yeah.
Ohio.
Then after 3 months there, we moved to Camp Campbell, Kentucky, which is actually in Tennessee.
Yes.
It's a corner, right on the corner of Kentucky, though. Front main entrance is in Kentucky. near Paducah.
Okay.
And there we were under General Stephen Henry in the 20th Armored Division. Well, we were only there probably 6 weeks. And the 20th was going to move out, so they moved us out ahead
Mm-hmm.
and moved us to Fort Knox. Well, when we got to Fort Knox, there was no idea of the 22nd Armored Division ever being formed there, so it broke us up into separate companies. And my company was assigned to be teachers in the ARTC, Armored Reserve,
Army Reserve Training.
no, Armored.
Oh, Armored.
Armored, ARTC, I can't remember.
Okay.
Training Corps.
Okay.
But anyway, I was a teacher there in small arms
Okay.
because I was probably the only one in our company that knew the whole, all about all the other different weapons.
I see.
So they put me in as a teacher there,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to go out on the range with them and show them how to handle the weapon on the range.
Now, what kind of weapons were these?
Rifles.
Were they the 03 Springfield from World War I?
No, no. When I went into Cavalry, we had the old Enfield.
The Model 1917 Enfields.
Yeah, how do you
Okay.
know?
Oh, I've had an interest in guns myself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we had the Enfield. Then we got the 03,
Mm-hmm.
and then we went to the M1,
Okay, the Garand.
the Garand.
Oh.
And when we got the Garand, it was all a new game for them all.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't understand that kind of weapon.
Because it was
No.
semi-automatic.
Semi-automatic, gas operated.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids all were all excited when they get out there. I'd tell them, cool it, take it easy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quite an experience teaching all these. And they were young kids compared to me. I was 24,
Mm-hmm.
25,
Mm-hmm.
in there somewhere. And I was grandpa. I was grandpa to a lot of them, and they gave me their attention no end.
Mm-hmm.
They were very good. I enjoyed my kids that I taught.
And you were still a corporal.
I was still a corporal,
Okay.
yes, and we were there for quite a while in our new company, and I was chosen to go on a cadre to form a new company down in what's now Fort Gordon,
Down in Georgia.
down in Georgia, yes. You know about that too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was at Fort Georgia, Gordon, it was Camp Gordon then,
Mm-hmm.
for over a year. And we formed the company there, and when we got the company formed, my unit, I had to form a section of my own. And they were I hand-picked people that I had, and we went after I schooled them enough so that they could be on their own and what. We went out to different places as IG inspectors
Oh,
in the whole of Gordon. Now there were, let's see, two different divisions there. There's a 71st Infantry Division and the 10th Armored Division. And we did the 71st Infantry Division first, checked all their units, all their units, and every weapon in the division. They passed. They went, goodbye. We won't see you again for a while.
now how many guys were on your team?
9.
9.
9.
And you were in charge of all 9 of them, or?
By the way, I forgot to tell you. I got down to Gordon, and I was told I had to go to Atlanta, where they were brewing weapons, and they needed 3 people to go there and check.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 of us got the job. I was one of the 3, and got over there. Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it. They were doing it all wrong. So I asked who's the officer in charge, and they said Major so and so. I don't know what his name was. I don't want to know. So he came out and I said, "You're doing this all wrong, Major." He says, "What are we doing wrong?" I said, "Well, first off, you're not breaking down the weapons properly to do this job. You got to take them all apart. You can't just take the wood off them and dunk them."
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's what they were doing. Just taking the wood off them and dunking them in gas-operated weapon. You know what? They're carburizing all the springs. The process carburizes the springs. You take the spring and pull it down and it stay down.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him. He said, "Well, who are you?" I told him who I was. I said, "Well," he says, "how do you know about bluing?" I said, "Oh, I worked at Savage Arms for several years before I came into the service." I said, "And I've been acquainted with almost every operation. I was an inspector on weapons." And he says, "Well, you mind your business and I'll mind mine." He turned around and walked back to his office. So I made out my report,
Uh-huh.
and I went back. We went back. We were there, I think, 4 days, and there was no sense to 3 days were wasted.
Mm-hmm.
After seeing that, but they were going on doing M1 rifles. They weren't putting the barrel. They were brewing the inside of the barrel. They were carburizing all the springs. The rear sight
Mm-hmm.
has a spring cover,
Yep.
and that all you do is hit the rifle and the back spring, the back side would fall off. The car had no spring.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, he wants to do it his way. That's his problem. You'll catch up with him, for sure.
Yeah.
Little did I think it would be me. So I go on. They say, well, you're going to give the 10th Armored its IG. It's going to go to Europe, and we got to have the weapons checked right along quick. I said, okay. I said, all the weapons? He said, all the weapons. So I went over there, we went to the first place, and my men went to work on them. My men were trained by me, so they knew what I did, they did.
Mm-hmm.
And well, it wasn't 10 minutes, and one of my men came up to me, says, Sergeant, he says, I was a sergeant first class, by the way.
Oh, were you? Wow.
By that time. And,
You moved up quick.
yeah, I did. I went from a corporal to a sergeant. And my next step was sergeant first class.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do bad.
No.
And he came up to me. He said, Sergeant, he says, all these weapons are no good. I said, what's wrong with them? And so he showed it to me. I know. I know all about them. So we checked every single weapon and put a red tag on every bunch. And went from the first supply room to second supply room. Yep, same thing. We got through 3 supply rooms, and we were on our 4th one. And I had a lieutenant. I had a lieutenant with me, of course. No matter where you go, you have to have one of them with you. and he came running over to me. He said, Sergeant, come with me quick. So I went with him over to the door, and there was a 2-star general standing. And he stood him, and I stood him, of course. And the general says, who's in charge of this operation? I says, I am, sir. And he says, what is it you're finding? I said, every one of your weapons won't work. I said, even your machine guns won't work. I said, they all been blued, and they were not taken down, and every one of them is junk. I said, the inside of the barrel is blued. I said, I don't know what the firing pin is, firing pin hole, that's all probably blued, and that can't be blued, you know. Mm-hmm. And he said to me, what's your name? So I told him, Sergeant Belfield. What unit? 923rd Ordnance. He said, I'm going to make out a report. He said, and if you're wrong, you're in trouble. I said, sir, I'm not wrong, but you're in trouble.
You said that to him?
Well, I told him. He's in trouble, he don't have any weapons.
Uh-huh.
And said, okay. I went back to the company, back up to my company. Then we didn't have anything more. He didn't want us to go any further. Mm-hmm. He says, I'll have my ordnance unit check it from there. Sure enough, they were all bad, and they had all been sent to Atlanta for re-brew. And I don't know what happened to him. And first thing you know, the company, call out the company, big sheet of paper, captain reads it up, to whom it may concern. The small arms unit of this company is hereby commended for their actions in 10th Armored Division by the general's name. Mm-hmm. So we got a commendation. I got a couple of them in here, and I didn't hear anything more about it. Mm-hmm. Nothing. But we didn't have to do any more because there wasn't any more. So I got a notice to go home. My wife had a baby and had my son.
Oh, you were married then?
Oh, I was married then. Sure, I got married in 1942.
Okay.
And I went home on leave And when I went home on leave, they sent me a telegram telling me don't report back to Gordon, report back to Fort Benning. Fort Benning, that's a trooper.
Mhm.
Say, you know, paratrooper.
Yeah.
And well, I got there, and I got off the bus, and got off the train, took the bus over, and I had all my belongings in 2 big bags carried over my shoulder. And I took them to fire, and I just had to sit down and go a little further. I don't know where I'm going. I had the slightest idea. So I finally, I'm walking down the street, and a car pulls up alongside of me. Where are you going? I said, 923rd Ordinance. I said, okay. There's stuff in the back seat. He says, I'll take you over there. Oh, and it was one of my buddies.
Oh.
And he had an Army car, and he took me over way out in the woods. We were out in no man's land, where they took the paratroopers for their initial jump.
Oh, okay.
It was about, you could see them jump, you know, they were just high enough so they had their parachute open coming down. And they didn't get hurt or anything. But I used to go out there and sit and watch them jump.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were there, and we got our orders to go to Europe, go overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And he took us back to Camp Kilmer, New Jersey.
Now this is the 920th.
923rd, yeah.
Now how big a unit was that went overseas?
I got a picture of it in there, I'll show you.
Okay.
Probably 125, 130 men. Oh, you see.
All right.
On the picture. And we went up to Camp Kilmer, and they made us ready to go over to Europe. Well, we got ready, went down to New York, got on board the ship.
Do you recall the name of the ship?
Oh yes, I recall the name of the ship very well. The name of the ship is the USAT Born-Quinn.
Okay.
You want to write that down somewhere, or I think I got it on that sheet that you gave me.
All right.
It was the last, we didn't know when we got on it, but when we got about halfway across the ocean, the captain got in a loudspeaker and said, notice to all people, we want you to know that you are on the USAT Born-Quinn. It is the last wooden ship afloat. Last wooden transport afloat. He says it has been hit twice by torpedoes, but torpedoes went right straight through it. And they got plates on where it hit.
Huh.
And where they hit, there's two plates on the front covering them. And he said, but if we got hit by a torpedo, submarine gets us, he said, don't worry, we're the safest people in the convoy. There's a 150 ship convoy. He said, we're the safest people in the convoy. Just grab a piece of the ship. It goes by.
At least he had a sense of humor, right?
Yeah. You're safe. Well, we got 2 submarine scares going over, and they sunk both submarines. The corvettes and the destroyers went bailing up through the convoy. They're out in front of us, and we could watch them with their
dropping depth charges.
Yes, all that kind of stuff. Oh boy. Next thing you see, a great big oil slick. You're going by.
Hmm.
Goodbye submarine. They got it.
Mm-hmm.
They got it twice. One of them was about 3 days off of England. They let us get that far, and they're going to knock us off. And this is a German submarine, all right. We got them both, and we got into Southampton, Portsmouth harbor. It's all one,
Mm-hmm.
one big harbor. And they had a submarine net across front of it, like a gate that they opened with tugboats and closed it with tugboats. And they opened it and let us through, which they had all kinds of English Navy was all around there to ensure there was no submarines around. And we got in there and we stayed there overnight. The next morning we got up and there's a line of British Navy across the channel or toward France. And they were there for us to go alongside to keep the ships in line and keep the submarines away.
Mm-hmm.
And we got almost into the harbor. There's a harbor neighbor right across from there. And we got almost into the harbor, and we saw 4 men on a raft, and he had a white flag on it, and they were waving for us. And our captain said, "Don't pull out of line. Stay in line." And he said it loud enough so the other ships in front and back of us could hear it. And the ship in front of us, so it had four men on it, 4 sailors on it. And he pulled out to go over to get the guys off the raft. He got just about alongside of them and caught, boom! The whole tail end of the ship, the rudder, got the whole thing, and started sinking almost immediately. And they got 2 tugboats, two British tugboats, and a big rope about that big around. And they strung it underneath the ship and lifted it up and took it in and beached it.
So those guys in the life raft were German?
Yeah. Yep. They sure were. And that was our first introduction to German
Wow.
sympathizers.
And they blew themselves up?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what they did.
Okay.
Last I saw them, goodbye. And we went on into the harbor, and we were the first ones off the ship. This is December now.
That would be December of...
44, 45.
Okay, well... It must have been, let's see.
The Battle of the Bulge was going on at that
Okay,
time. And
all right.
we got there just in time to get in the tail end of the Battle of the Bulge. I was in the tail end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we got off the boat and got in there, and we waited and we waited and we waited to be picked up this winter. And we're standing there with our duffel bags and waiting to be moved.
Now, did you have any kind of winter gear at all?
When we left here,
Yeah, did they give you winter gear?
oh yeah, we had winter
Okay.
gear, but even so, standing there like that, you become an icicle very shortly.
Mm-hmm.
And we waited and we waited and we waited. well, what's the story? Well, you're supposed to go on the train and those trucks over there are for the next unit. That's their train, that's their trucks. Well, about 4 hours we waited there. And finally they decided that the next unit hadn't come off the ship yet. They weren't ready to leave. So they said, well, you go and take the trucks. And we took the trucks and we went to St. Valery, France. That's on just up the road, up the coast a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And we went up there, got snow about 2 feet deep. And they had pup tents put on top of them on the snow for us guys to get in. I opened the front of my pup tent that I was supposed to, me and my buddy Joe were supposed to go into. There's just 2 feet of snow inside the tent. I said, hey, don't worry, Joe, I know how to work this one. He said, do you? I said, yeah, find a shovel. And we had those little shovels.
The little entrenching tools?
Yeah, entrenching tool, yeah. And I dug a hole, 2 feet, or it would be 2 feet deep, of course, 2 feet deep, and big enough for Joe and I to get into. And I said, Joe, give me your blanket, I'll put it on the bottom. Line it with the one your, then I'll take mine, we'll put mine on the top. Each one of us had a blanket.
Yeah.
Mine on the top. I said, and we'll be okay. He said, yeah, oh, he says, I don't believe it, we'll freeze to death. Well, you know, we were snug as a bug in a rug. That was good training I'd learned a long time ago.
Uh-huh.
And so we got up in the morning and everybody was grumbling they couldn't sleep and they this and that and the other thing. And Joe and I get up fresh as a daisy. But during the night, I don't believe we got into bed, just got into bed. And all of a sudden, sirens all over the place. What is going on? Air raid or what? Well, I looked out of my tent, and there was a whole line of ambulances right next door to where we were. Was a hospital unit.
Oh.
All these ambulances were bringing in men to the hospital unit. And
From the Bulge?
no. We hadn't even been there a day yet.
Oh.
We just gotten off the train, off the trucks, I should say.
Yeah.
And I went over and said, I saw a major standing there. I said, Major, what's the problem? He says, the train accident last night. I said, oh, what was a train accident? He says, the engineer was a collaborator, German collaborator, he says, and he took the train, and as he come into the station in France and in Belgium, the trains go into the station. Right, that's the end of the train, end of the track.
Mm-hmm.
And he opened it up wide open and jumped off. Well, all the soldiers that were in the front end of the train were either wrecked, something happened to them. A lot of them were killed.
Mm.
Well, that was what we were getting in the
ambulances.
And this major was standing there saying, that one goes there, that one goes there, that one goes there, separating them according to their injuries and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
or dead. And so I told my men, come on over here and give them a hand. There ain't enough people there all these stretchers. So we did. We were helping them, and my captain came over. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "We're helping them with these stretchers." I says, "There's a train wreck," and my captain says, "Well, you get your," I won't use the language he did. You get yourself back over where you belong. I said, "Well, I belong here right now." I says, they need help and I'm here." He said, "Get back where you belong." And the major came over and he says, what's the matter? And I told him, and he said, "Captain, you get over where you belong. These men are going to be here helping me. My order. You want to do anything about it?" And so we stayed and helped them for a long time. Come to find out, this unit that took the brunt of the thing were on the train in the place where we would have been had we got on the train.
Oh.
And when our captain found that out, it was all a different story. See?
Mm-hmm.
Him and his big mouth. And I didn't like him. He and I became not friends anymore after that night. And well, it was a joke, because the next day we're all set up, ready for our noonday meal, and they had the kitchen on a truck, and they had, I forget what they had, probably stew, but they made it wasn't any canned
Yep.
stuff, and all of a sudden, swish, up goes the kitchen in smoke, fire. All the canvas and stuff that was on over the top of the truck come down one hill, the food, and they couldn't serve it. We ended up with sea ration.
Uh-huh.
And I laughed, I tell you, I laughed until I didn't know what to do. I thought that was the funniest thing. You know, you get paid back for what you do.
Yeah.
And that knucklehead got paid back. His kitchen went up in smoke. But anyhow, we got on up to, got on a train, and 40 Nate cars.
Oh, yeah.
40 men, 8 horses, you know.
Sure.
And we got in the cars, but they forgot the horses that were there before. They forgot to
Clean it
eliminate
out.
the exhaust. It was still in there. My men had to clean out the car before they could even get in the fool thing. And we got in there eventually. Still smelled pretty bad, but next thing you know, our train started to roll, and I said, "I wonder where we're going." So I stick my head out the door. I rolled it back enough so I could look, and I look ahead. And I see the Eiffel Tower. Well, now the Eiffel Tower is not in Belgium. It's in Paris, or unless they moved it. And I told my men, "We're going to Paris." And I said, "That's wrong. We're supposed to be going the other way." Well, I got the captain's attention, and he saw it too. Boy, he pulled that wire that's in there down and stopped the train, dead. And the engineer come back, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" My captain says, "We're supposed to be going towards Belgium." No, no, you go Paris. No, we don't go Paris, we go to Belgium. Well, come to find out, there's another collaborator. he was making out like he didn't know. And they had to take the engine off that end, put on the Valor end, and take us back into Belgium. Well, we get into Belgium, we get into a little town called Alsenburg. Whoever heard of Alsenburg, Belgium? And we got off there, and they took us by truck into Brussels. And we got into Brussels, and we got some nice quarters. I'll show you pictures of them. I got pictures of them. I got pictures of mine. I was in charge of one house. Joe, my buddy Joe and I had charge of one house. And there was let's see, trying to think. Anyway, it was some chemical company's athletic field. They had a soccer field in between. They had a tennis courts, and they had a big field house up on the other end. But I was in opposite end. I had a beautiful villa. We lived in, and you can imagine going to war and ending up in something like this. And my men were all happy. We got in there and had to clean it all out. Of course, it was all dirty. So we put them to work, cleaned it out, and that's where I lived for quite a while. And we were at Depot 0686 at that time. That was right in Brussels. That was a good deal. Then they moved us up into Liège. I was in Liège. Do you have any sense of what I'm saying? Brussels to Liège. I'm up near to the Battle of the Bulge, where I was going. And I was there probably 2 or 3 days, and they put me up closer to Avaranches. Avaranches is right next door to where the Battle of the Bulge was. That's the name of the town, little town there. First thing I found was an apple orchard. Oh boy, did we make short work of that. The guy came out that owned it. He said, "What you doing?" In French. By this time I could speak French pretty fluently. So I told him, I said, "We're picking up the apples that are on the ground that would be no good anyway, and we're eating them, but we're not picking any off the trees." And he said, "Okay." He says, I just didn't want you to take any off the trees. I said, "My men are smarter than that." I tell them all this in French. And yeah, okay, take as many as you want, but don't take any off the trees. So we were all set there. We went on where we went that day, I don't remember. But we went back to Liège eventually, and I was in charge of 150 German or Italian prisoners. They gave me 150 Italian prisoners. They were cleaning up the battlefields, putting all the cleanup into 48 cars and sending it back to railhead in Liège, because Fabrique Nationale, that was their big arms company, Fabrique Nationale, and we had to sort it out. They threw everything in those cars. Bazookas, bazooka ammunition. I was scared to open the door every time I opened one and something would fall out, and I, goodbye Jay.
Now the Italian prisoners were handling all this ordnance?
Yep. And they went home. They took the Italians away from me and sent them home. And they said, give me 150 Germans. I got 150 Germans, and those Italians were the laziest bird you ever did see comparatively. And the Germans I turned them loose, and the Major too. No, it was Lieutenant Colonel, I think. Came down and said, what are you doing with all these Germans sitting around here? I said, I ain't, don't worry, they're working their heads off. He said, no they ain't, he said, a lot of them sitting around there. I said, well, I can't answer that. All I can say is that they're working every day. I send out 2 or 3 cars. He said, oh, well, you can't let any, he said, I'm going to have to cut you down. I said, okay. He says, 100. That's all you're going to get. So I got 100. Well, the 100 Germans would do the work of 150 Italians. And nobody was sitting around.
And they were well fed and taken care of?
Oh, sure. Oh, sure. Sure, they had all the sauerkraut they could eat. Then he came down, he says, do you have any SS men in there? I said, yeah, I have to have 4 of them because I got 100 or more. I have to have 4 SS men to keep them in line. Oh, he said, he said, what do you mean to keep them in line? I said, well, they're afraid that they'll get with the Americans and want to go to America. I said, I get that every day. I get that every day. They all want to go to America. And he said, well, he said, I'm going to take 25 more away from you, and you won't have to have the SS men. I said, good, take them. And but I wanted to end up with 75 Germans doing the work of 150 Italians. And we did all much work. So I said, well, I got to do something for these guys. I'll give them some good incentive to work. So I said, they had a Walter.
Hello.
Walter could speak English.
Jay, I gotta eat my lunch because Julie's gonna pick me up.
Okay. Walter went back to him and said to him, Sergeant Belfield just said, any 6 men he picks at the end of a week, he's going to pick the 6 hardest workers out, and he'll tell you what he's going to do after he gets them. So that weekend, I said, you, and got 6 of them. I said, come on, follow me. So they followed me, and we went over to a cafe, and we all went in. So I sat them down, I sit down, the owner comes over, he says, "What do you have?" I said, 7 beers. He says, 1 beer maybe, but not 7. I said, "Why not?" He says, "They're Germans." I said, "They were the enemy, but the war is over now."
Oh, this was
After
after,
the war.
I
yeah.
see.
And he said, "I can't serve them." I said, "No, you can't?" I said, "Okay." And I said, I can speak German too, by the way. And I turned to them and I said, take this place apart. and I said to him, I just told them in German to take this place apart. "Oh," he says, "no, no." He says, I get 7 beers. So I said, "We don't have no more trouble." I said, "The war's over." I said, "All right." I gave us 7 beers. I paid for them.
Mm-hmm.
And from that time on, as long as I was there, no trouble with my 7 beers every weekend. I think it was probably about 4 or 5 weeks after that.
Mm-hmm.
And I came home.
Now, where were you when you heard about the death of President Roosevelt?
It's a hard one to answer. I don't
Okay.
remember.
Okay, do you remember hearing about?
Oh, sure. And I was so happy Harry Truman got in. I liked Harry Truman as VP.
Okay.
When he got to be president, I was happy.
Now, when you heard that the war had ended in Europe, was there much celebration?
I was on leave that day.
Mm-hmm.
I had a 1-day pass, and I was in Belgium, in Brussels.
Mm-hmm.
May 8th was the day it was over in Europe.
Yeah, well, it was all over.
Yeah. Was there any talk about going to the Pacific to fight the Japanese?
No. I was in the booze joint. I was coming out. I just had a beer. I think it was beer. I can't. And I don't count after one. And a girl come running down this little slope, and she says, "La guerre est finie, la guerre est finie." And she's waving her arms like this, "La guerre est finie." The war is over.
Yeah.
The war is over. Vive les Américains! She saw me. Vive les Américains! Come over here, give me a big hug. Said, "Oh, vive les Américains!" And I said, "Okay, that's good." That's enough right there. I don't want to get in trouble. And so I turned around then, went back up to the barracks, and everybody was so happy the war was over.
Yeah.
It took us about a week though to arrange it in your head.
Yeah.
The war is over and I'm going home. Well, I didn't go home right away. That's when I got into that cleaning the battlefield and all that
Yeah.
stuff that I was telling you about.
And when did you end up going home?
January 1946.
46.
Yep.
Hmm.
I came right to Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Now, were you involved in any occupation duty like in Germany?
No,
No.
no. No, we were
Okay.
strictly ordnance people.
Okay.
We had nothing to do with like that would be infantry troops and stuff like that, or,
Okay.
or military police. Like that would go in.
Okay.
No, we came back, we went back down. I got in another, company, and there's a 900th ordinance.
No, this is back in the States?
No, back in before I went to France.
Okay.
Before I went to France, I got transferred to another company, the 900th ordinance. We were 923rd, I got in the 900th, and I came home with a 900th ordinance.
Oh, okay. Now, did the whole group came back together?
My group did. I don't know about the other group.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right here. I have to change tapes. So you came back home with the 920th Ordnance Company,
No, 900.
or 900th, I'm sorry. And what happened at that point? Were you discharged with them?
Yeah, I came home on the Aiken Victory. It was one of those made special for the Navy during the war there.
Okay.
I forget who was making them for, but they're slam banged together.
Mm-hmm.
And we came in the harbor, we went out by the harbor. Well, we had to cross the channel to get out into the ocean. Well, the day we hit the channel was probably one of the roughest days that they had in the channel. And we got on this full Aiken Victory, which was an all steel boat instead of a wood one. And we got out there, you go, eek-aw, eek-aw, eek-aw. And I watched the rivets, watching the rivets to see if they would pop. Oh dear God, keep those rivets in there.
Yes.
Because some of those, do you remember the ships that were breaking in half?
I heard about them, yeah.
Yeah, well, this was one of them.
Oh,
And all I could see is me sitting around I had my
in a life jacket.
yeah, I had my life jacket on, waiting for somebody to come and pick me up. And we got out of the channel, believe it or not. We got out in the open sea, and it was just as smooth as glass all the way across. We went to Europe in the Gulf Stream.
Mm-hmm.
When we came back in the Gulf Stream. And this was,
Mm-hmm.
and it's cold out.
Sure.
And the last thing I saw when we left America and I stood there and cried like a baby was
The Statue of Liberty. Mm-hmm.
I wondered if I'd ever see it again.
Mm-hmm.
And coming back in, what's the first thing you see?
It was still there. Yep.
Oh, that was a happy day.
Mm-hmm. Now, did your wife know you were coming back then?
No, I didn't know I was coming
Yeah.
back there. She didn't
No, that was quite a thrill, I'll tell you. Because there was a telephone strike and a telegraph strike when he hit New York, and he couldn't even let me know he was coming.
Oh my goodness.
So I didn't know he was coming till he come to the back door.
Yeah.
That was...
And I had all my gear and everything else with me.
Hello?
Yep.
In the meantime, I picked up another load too. I loaded to the.
Okay, listen, Julie.
So did you come home before you were discharged from the service?
No, I discharged.
You were discharged,
I
then you went home.
discharged. I bought a lot of Christmas gifts and all other kinds of stuff
Uh-huh.
to bring home for my wife
Oh,
and
'cause you can get
And
the
your
$20
son.
to go grocery
my
shopping,
mother.
and then you won't have to bother going to the bank to cash it.
I
Now, was your
stopped.
father living at that
That'd be
point?
good, right?
My father died when I was 3.5 years old.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
My father died,
You
I
got a
don't
key?
even remember my father. Well, once in a while.
Sure.
You better get it,
Uh.
come in, 'cause the guy's here for the interview.
But on the way home, I stopped and had a
Okay.
few brews.
Bye-bye, huh?
Uh-huh.
It was kind of icy. And I slipped and fell. I had a beautiful set of glasses, not water glasses,
Mm-hmm.
all from where were they? Dresden? Somewhere where they
Mhm.
made all glass were real expensive. And I was saying, I hit the ice going home,
Oh,
fell, smashed one of them. Had to carry them all that way.
oh my gosh.
I had no gift.
Uh-huh.
That finished my gift.
Well, I guess it was a good enough gift seeing you home safe, right?
Yeah. Even if it was all broke.
So your wife was totally surprised when you came to
Oh.
the door.
That was a big surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Big surprise.
It was a happy surprise.
Uh-huh.
We were both happy.
Now, how old was your son at that point?
He was, let's see, he was about 16 months old.
Okay. Hmm. So you got home, you were discharged, then you went home. Did you make use of the GI Bill or the 5220 Club?
Right off the bat, I joined the 5220 Club. In fact, I still got my paper.
Oh, do you really?
I took about 4 weeks of it.
Yeah.
That's all. I went to work as fast as I could
Mm-hmm.
because I worked at Savage Arms before I went in. I went to Savage Arms and they took me right back in.
Now, whereabouts were they located?
Utica.
Utica, okay.
Do you know anything about Utica?
Not a lot. I mean, I've driven through there. Are they still located in
No.
Utica? Because
No.
I thought I saw them over in Massachusetts.
They're in Chicopee Falls, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Chicopee Falls. That's right. That's where their main
Mhm.
headquarters were anyway.
So you went back to work for Savage Arms.
Yep.
Not for very long though, Dave.
Not very long. Well, they folded. They went back to Chicopee.
Oh.
So I went to flipping hamburgers.
Well, now, did you have the choice to go with them to Chicopee or no?
No. I had no connection with Chicopee, so they didn't have to take
Okay.
me.
Yep.
But they did have to take me in Utica.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the end of that.
All right. So you started flipping hamburgers.
Yeah.
You didn't do that, Rick J.
Didn't I go to Cupie?
No.
Where'd I go from what?
You went to work at the
Bendick?
Western Auto Store.
Oh, Western Auto Store. There you go.
All right.
Went to work at the Western Auto Store, that's right. Went to work at Western Auto for quite a while.
Now you went back in the service.
Okay, tell us about that. You went back,
Well, I was in the reserve.
yeah, and I see you made, you were a warrant, you became a warrant officer?
Yes.
Okay.
I was in the reserve, and they called for people to come up for 1 year to help with the Berlin airlift.
Oh,
So I said, okay, I'll go in for 1 year for Berlin airlift. And I got in.
mm-hmm,
Well, instead of, when I reported for duty, they sent me to the Utica recruiting office to report in. I reported in, they said, well, you ain't going anywhere. You ain't going to the Berlin airlift. You're staying right here. I said, well, how's that? Said, well, you can do more good do here recruiting than you can if you went on the Berlin airlift.
mm-hmm.
So I said, okay. So I got on recruiting. And they made me public
Public affairs?
information, NCO.
Mm-hmm.
There's another sergeant and I had a radio program. We used to give out information to the newspaper.
Oh,
We spoke at all kinds of men's clubs, the Rotary,
mm-hmm,
the Lions, and all those clubs. And we went to high schools and gave talks there.
mm-hmm.
And we did pretty good. Our information got around and it worked. So, I decided at the end of my 1 year, instead of getting out, I'd re-enlist.
Uh-huh.
I was living home.
The money was pretty good?
Oh no, my sergeant first class.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't making peanuts by that time. I was doing pretty good, yes.
Yeah.
Because don't forget, I had years into two raise.
Yeah.
And called them knocks when I was in there. Got a couple knocks. And I re-enlisted. So I get orders to report to, they told me I would go on recruiting duty if I re-enlisted.
Mm-hmm.
So I get orders to go to Seattle, Washington, Fort Lewis, Seattle, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knew what would happen if I went there. I'd be shipped out of there somewhere into the Pacific.
Uh-huh.
And at the time, the Korea was hot.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I probably would have went out right out of there to Korea. Well, I went to the captain. I said, Captain, when I enlisted, they promised me that I'd go on recruiting duty. He said, well, I can't do anything about it. Well, I had a friend by that time that I'd met in Utica, first lieutenant. I told him about it. He said, don't worry, Jay, I'll take care of it. You wouldn't believe it, how fast I got taken off of those orders to go to Fort Lewis and transferred to Syracuse. I said, how'd you do that? He says, when I speak, they hear me. He was a sergeant on D-Day, and he landed on D-Day with all his men.
Mm-hmm.
And he lost a couple, two or three, but he told his men, stay with me and do what when I do it, do you do it. And he got almost all his men through.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he got hit too. He got a Purple Heart there. And he got the Silver Star. I forget how many Bronze Stars. All on the beach on D-Day before he got off the beach.
Mm.
There's pictures in the next room. He was my buddy from that time on. He was in Syracuse. We went fishing together. We did all kinds of things together.
Uh-huh.
He died on May the 28th, a few years back. I can't remember what year anymore. But he lived in Texas.
Uh-huh.
He was real old West Virginia hillbilly. That's my daughter.
Okay, so I see you were discharged December 15th, 1952. You decided you had enough at that point?
I'm getting to be an alcoholic.
Oh,
I'll explain to you.
okay. Okay.
Oh, okay.
She has
I gotta give you something out of my pocketbook.
diabetes.
Oh, I
I
see.
gotta give you a paper.
Take her blood.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let me just stop this for a minute.
Probably.
You were going to tell me about how you made warrant officer?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to skip from there and then over to how I made warrant officer. I was in the reserve. And, of course, I was a master sergeant already. And the other sergeant, the first sergeant, and two other sergeants were his buddies. They didn't like me because I was Johnny-come-lately into their unit.
Mm-hmm.
And this warrant officer thing came up. And I was the most eligible person in the company with all my past, and so forth, and my knowledge of what it was. It was an ordnance company too.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew where I was going and what I was doing. And I knew the captain too, he was an old friend of mine. And I said, oh, you want to get this warrant officer thing, I'll give it a shot. He said, okay. So he gave me the papers, I filled them out. Be darned if it didn't make me a warrant officer. Well, the three sergeants got together and trumped up a charge against me, and they're gonna court-martial me for doing something that I never ever did.
Uh-huh.
And first thing you know, I'm in trouble.
Oh,
So
I
wrote the Pentagon and told them they could take me as warrant officer and shove it.
Uh-huh.
I didn't need it that bad. I said, I'll go back to Master Sergeant where I belong. I did.
Oh, did you? No.
Yeah. I got my uniform.
Uh-huh.
Still got my uniform. I still wear it.
Mm-hmm. So you ended up getting out in 1952.
Yep.
And what did you do at that point?
What did I do? 1952. That's a long time ago.
What, now was that after you had left Savage?
Oh, yeah, Savage had gone long time before.
Okay.
Yeah, and like Lillian said, remember I went to work for the Western Auto,
Yes.
and then I worked for Bendix. I think I worked at General Electric at that time,
Okay.
making the Sidewinder missile.
Uh-huh.
I was a inspector on the Sidewinder missile. There's 4 men and me.
Mm-hmm. So that must have been pretty interesting work.
Oh, that was very interesting. It was all precision work. There's thousandth of an inch,
Mm-hmm.
10,000th of an inch. Very, very, very interesting.
Now, did you retire from them?
No, we moved to New Jersey. I went to work for RCA down there.
Uh-huh.
That's when I had it made. I worked at RCA I had to go 30 miles.
Go.
Okay.
I'm gonna go.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye. Want some water?
And
Why, what happened?
don't forget that haircut.
Where's my block? Oh, over there.
You're supposed to give me a haircut.
Oh.
Yeah, that's from last night. That's all right.
And I worked for RCA for a long time.
1, 2,
Mhm.
that's not
I
good.
think about 3 years. I loved it there.
It isn't coming till
You know what the name of the man who was in charge
come
of
the first
RCA?
box.
No.
So I'm gonna have
Yeah, I got his name around somewhere. I can't find it. But he was a brigadier general
Uh-huh.
in the Army. Not, it was just a title given him
Mm-hmm.
for RCA. And I came down one day, going through the plant, first time I ever saw him. He had about 6 other guys with him. He saw me there standing there and he said, "Are you new here?" I said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Yes, General, I am." That's how I answered him. And he said, "How'd you know I'm a general?" I said, "Because I know." He said, "Well, were you in the service?" I said, "Yes, I was." So I explained to him I was a sergeant in the service, went through the war. I was in the Korean War too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And went through all that, and came over and shook hands with me. He said, "Well," he said, "glad to meet you. I hope you stay. Hope you like your job." I said, "I love it." And he went away. Next time he come back, down through, he came over to me. He said, "Hello, Jay." They call me Jay.
Mm-hmm.
"Hello, Jay." I said, "Hello, General. You like your job?" I said, "I love it." He said, "Fine." That's all. Each time he came through, after that, he came over and said hello to me and passed the time of day.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that owned the place.
Wow. Now, what year did you retire?
When did I retire? Oh dear.
Well, you're 96. So did you retire at age 62 or 65 or
63.
63?
I can figure it out from
Mm-hmm.
First and three. And I enjoyed working at the RCA about as good as any place I ever worked.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it tremendously there. Especially knowing I had the head guy on my side all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And but I didn't stay there. I had to go 30 miles one way to work.
Oh.
I was looking for a job closer to home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one day I was going to work, and my usual route, going to work, and all of a sudden the policeman jumps out in front, stop. I said, what's the matter? What'd I do? He says, you were speeding. I said, I was what? I said, I was going 35. He says, well, didn't you see the sign? It's 25. They had two signs. As far as from me to you, apart. One of them was 35, one was 25. He was behind the one that was 25. He gave me a ticket. Well, I raised Cain about that. That's a traffic trap if I ever saw one.
Mm-hmm.
I had to pay the fine. I said, from now on, you'll never ever see me in that town again. Hightstown, New Jersey. And you'll never see me in that town again. I said, if I have to go 10 miles out of my way to get where I'm going, I won't go through there. So I found a way going there. I used to go through Cranberry.
Mm-hmm.
Around. And I got out to RCA. Anyhow, that's too much work. So I decided I was going to get a job closer by, and I got one that was about 10 miles up the road from where I lived.
Mm-hmm.
A little less money, but I didn't use much gas. I didn't have and they treated me good too.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed there for a while. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
We're in New Jersey 14 years, but most of the time I retired.
And when did you move back up here?
Wait a minute. No, I didn't retire. I didn't stay in New Jersey 14 years. That was my first time down there. I was there 8 years. And we moved back up here to where? West Winfield. You know where West Winfield is?
Mm-hmm.
We lived on a main drag there, and then we moved up in the farm. I had a beautiful garden. My kids loved it there.
Mm-hmm.
Because when the veggies got ripe, I put them all in baskets and let them sit on the edge of the road and char and sell all my
Produce?
produce. Yeah, and people come up from town because my daughter didn't know how much prices were, and they take what they want and give her $50 or something, and she was happy. She's in big heaven, you know.
Okay. Now, did you end up joining any veterans organizations?
I belonged to the VFW and I belonged to the Legion, both.
Oh, okay.
I belonged to VFW while I was still in the service. I had association with the Legion from the time I was 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a junior drum and bugle corps, and I became a member of the American Legion Junior Drum and Bugle Corps.
Oh.
So I had to associate with them. Well, I played a bugle,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't join the Legion though when I came back from overseas, because I figured the VFW is the place to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I joined the VFW. Well, I was still in the Army in Syracuse, like I told you. I come home and my guy rode me back and forth. Said, "Shall we have a beer?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Where do you want to go?" I said, "Go to the VFW. We get them a little cheaper in there, and you get a little, you know." So I said, "Okay." So we went to VFW. We went in and set up. I have a uniform, of course.
Yeah.
And set up the bar. Ordered a couple of beers. There's a guy down the end of the bar. Are you in the service?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, what are you, a dog catcher?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a dog catcher." I thought that would be the end of that. Well, he kept on it. He kept on it. He kept on it.
And this is at a VFW
Yeah.
post?
He shouldn't have even been there as drunk as he was.
Mm-hmm.
I should have got him out somewhere. And I didn't say anything more to him. Jim and I were talking, my friend, we were talking to one another. All of a sudden, I feel a hand on my shoulder. And all I had to do was feel a hand on my shoulder. When I came around as hard as I could, boy. And I whacked that sucker down him clean across the room and up against the wall, and he was out like a light. And the bartender said to me, "What'd you do that for?" I said, "Didn't you see what he did?" He said, "Yeah, but he said he's drunk." I said, "That don't give him any a reason for putting his hand on my shoulder." I said, "The minute the man puts their hand on my shoulder, they're going to get knocked for a loop." And the guy said, the bartender said, "Well, he's a veteran too." He says, "He's, you know." I said, "I don't care who he is." I said, "Furthermore," I said, "it's my uniform is what he's after." I said, "If I didn't have a uniform on, he wouldn't be bothering me." So the bartender started to give me a guff. So I took the VFW card. "Here, have your VFW card. I don't need it."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to join the American Legion. It's very simple." And we turned around and walked out. So I didn't belong to the VFW anymore. I joined the Legion. I've been in it ever since.
Now, did you ever attend any reunions from your old unit at all?
No, but I was to two national conventions with the Legion.
Uh-huh.
One in Miami and one in New York. I was in both parades.
Mm-hmm.
Now I was in the senior corps by now. This is after the war, you know.
Yeah.
Boy, went to Miami. Beautiful day, just like it is outside all here.
Mm-hmm.
And the parade was started sometime in the morning. Was dark, and we were still standing there waiting to go in the parade.
Hmm.
We were at the football field in Miami.
Uh-huh.
You come up Flagler Avenue and the main drag there. I don't know what it is anymore. And we got about halfway up Flagler Ave. I think the Lord opened one hole in in the sky and poured all the water he had in it. It wasn't 10 seconds, I was drenched. Everybody else was drenched. And well, what's the sense? You can only get just so wet, right? When you're drenched like that, what's the use of running under cover? You might as well carry on with it. So we did. We come on up onto the main drag there, and everybody else was drenched too, and they were trying to figure out what to do. We went back to our hotel. That was in Miami. In New York, we marched up Fifth Avenue, all the way up Fifth Avenue to, I can't remember what street across. But anyway, all the way up anyhow. I was in that one.
Okay. So you've been a member of the VFW plus the Legion, and have you been in touch with any of the guys you served with? You mentioned one of the fellows who passed away a few years ago.
Well, that's my best buddy. He was in the Army.
Okay.
I got his picture in there.
All right. All right. Well, I guess I think we've got everything we need. Anything else you'd like to add?
All I can say is, if I had my way, I would have stayed for the 20. I had 16. I would have stayed for the 20. But my wife says, "You're drinking too much. Get out." So I got out.
Okay.
I was an alcoholic by that time. I didn't tell you what my job was in New Jersey, in Syracuse. I first went out as a recruiter. Well, my first year on recruiting, I got over 100 men. It made me a star recruiter. Then they said, "We're having problems in our office. Do you think you could handle it?" I said, "I can handle anything." "Well, would you come in and take a look?" Well, they had filing cabinets there. They must have had, I'll give it a guess, I don't know exactly, 15 filing cabinets. And they're stacked that high with forms on all the filing cabinets. Well, I didn't know why at first, but that was the different draft boards. Each pile was a draft board. And they said, "We're that far behind with the draft boards getting their paperwork back to them. Do you think you can get it back to them?" I said, "Sure, I can get it back to them." I said, "How long will it take you?" I looked at it. I had four stenographers working for me. I said, "Well, with those young ladies there, and with their knowledge of the job," I said, we get that done in about 2 weeks. I said, "If you'll give me a little overtime for the girls." Okay. So we went to work on it. And the guy who was in charge of it, in charge of the examining group, his uncle was a colonel. And he thought his job was putting his feet up on his desk and reading a book. That was his job. And when I got there and they told me I was in charge of it, the first thing I did was said, "Get your feet off the desk, get the book out of your hands, and go to work." He says, "My uncle is Colonel so-and-so. I don't care whether your uncle is a commander-in-chief. as of right now, you're either gonna go to work or you're gonna go. He said, well, I ain't going to do anything. I said, good. Go. He said, no, I ain't going. So I went in and told the captain. And the captain, I don't want him in there. He's disrupting my whole operation. I'm going to be in charge. He's gone. I said, okay. He was gone right then. And my girls almost hugged me to death to get rid of him.
Mm-hmm.
And from then, they would work until their hands wore off, I think, getting that stuff out for me. 2 weeks, we had every paper clear. 2 weeks and every paper was clear. Those girls worked like crazy for me. And from then on out, of course, it was day at a time and things were nice and slow. You take your time and do things. We had no problems. The operation was set up for a maximum of 75 men a day. The Army says you can do up to 75 men a day. Well, so when I first took over, well, 75, 80, 90, 100, that's all right. I can catch that. And I had a system worked out. And got up to 150. Hey, wait a minute. Now, just because I cleaned up the thing and did all this, you're not going to start in pushing me. The draft board started in pushing more people in because that gives them a wider, a few more to play with. And next thing you know, I got 150. 200. Boy, by now my girls are really working hard and I'm working hard to keep up with the thing. One day they sent me in 250. I went to the captain, I said, Captain, that is it. We're set up to do 75 and I'm doing 250 today. He said, did you do them? I said, you're darn right we did. But that don't mean I'm going to do 250 again. I'm set up to 100. I'll do 100 or somewhere around 100 a day. Being all fair and square. So if they send me in more than that, we can't handle it. But what I did, my way of getting around this thing was we had two parts to the examination, a mental and a physical. So you had your mental over here and your physical over here. I'd take a half of them and send them in for their physical and half of them in for the mental, and just switch them around. You know what I mean? So I keep doing that all day. No glitches. It worked. So I'd do 100, 150. That was it. Well, I got commended for that. So that went along for a long time. One day the captain came in and he says, how do you do what you're doing? I said, do you want to know? He said, sure. I handed him papers. I said, here. He said, you got it on paper? I said, well, sure. I don't do anything that I don't make notes of and show. Got a plan. I got a plan. So he looked at it. He took him and he looked at him. I said, okay. About a week went by and he says, you're going to get a visitor. I said, I am? What? He There's a guy coming up from the Pentagon, wants to see how you do this. So I said, all I'm going to do with him, sir, is give him what I gave you. I'm going to give him the paper. I couldn't explain it any clearer. So the guy came from the Pentagon, great big green badge, and he wouldn't even talk to me. He came out, he introduced himself with the captain, and he wouldn't talk to me. So the captain said, "You got one of your papers around, Pastor, Sergeant?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Will you give me a copy?" I said, "Sure." So I gave him a copy and he gave it to him. And the guy took it. I said, "That's the last I'll see of that turkey. Goodbye." He thought he was better than I was because he came from the Pentagon. He's still in the same army I'm in. So time went by. All of a sudden I get a notification to go in and see the captain. He said, "Guess what, Sergeant Belfield?" I said, "What?" He said, "There's 38 examining stations in the United States. They're all working under your plan right now." And I said, "Well, that was obvious from the very beginning. Anybody could have seen that, not only me." He said, "Yeah, but nobody did." So I got a commendation. So the turkey did do some good. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. My captain mentioned to me that he'd handed it in and stuff, but he didn't tell me anything about this other one. When Vietnam came along, my son was drafted into the Vietnam War. So I went down, big shot that I am, and says, "I want to enlist in Vietnam." I was in New Jersey at the time. He said, "Oh, you can't re-enlist. You're too old." I said, "I want to enlist in Vietnam. Check my records and you'll find out I'm not too old." He said, "My time I was in the service plus my age." Well, I thought I had one way and they discounted it, so I didn't have enough. Anyway, I went up to Kilmer. Kilmer was still open then, and I went up there. I took my examination, passed it. Next thing you know, I see an officer coming down toward me. He says, "Are you Justus Belfield?" I said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Did you ever see this?" And he handed me a paper, and on the front of it, it says, "Justus R. Belfield," and whatever, plan or whatever it was. He said, "Did you ever see that?" I said, "Yes, I'm the one who made it." And he said, "Well," he said, "did you know that all 38s, that's where I learned, all 38 examining stations are using your plan?" I said, "No." He said, "Well," he says, "I'm sorry to tell you that you can't get back in, you're too old. So we can't send you to Vietnam." So he said, but he says, "We're very proud of you just the same. Because we're using your system." Then he took me through his whole examining station and explained to me each station. "See, it's just exactly the way you want it, isn't it?" I said, "Yes, it is." So that's how I know, how I know it was put through.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your interview.
Oh, you're welcome.